says there will be disruption ahead after its pilots formally served the airline with notice of upcoming industrial action in the row over pay. From next week, a strict and indefinite work to rule will come into effect, meaning an overtime ban, just as Aer Lingus hits its peak summer season. Well, for more on this, we're joined down the line by Eoghan Corry. Eoghan, I realise you were here in the studio last night bringing us up to date on the second ballot that, seemed to suggest there might be strike action. But I don't know if we saw this work to rule decision coming. Were you surprised by it?
Not at all. What I talked about last night was ramping up pressure. That's exactly what's happened. 7 days notice, well within legal, but not enough for EU 261. They're weaponising the consumer legislation, the EU consumer legislation, and they're not going on strike, but they're doing something very, very close, Ciara.
So what does work to rule mean for these pilots?
Work to rule, it's very 1970s, it's very retro. You just stick to exactly what your duties are. Now in aviation, it has added significance because flexibility is the key to operating an airline. You need flexibility to deal with weather events, with flights that are late, connections that aren't working, all of those sort of things. And once you run it, if you have the withdrawal of that flexibility, it makes it quite difficult for an airline to run without something going wrong somewhere along the way. We also have a situation already where the number of pilots crying and sick has been increased above the expected levels in recent weeks. And Aer Lingus are anticipating that without going on strike, from Wednesday next, obstacles will be put in the running of an efficient operations by the airline. How they respond to that is obviously a challenge, but it's a challenge that they will start working on.
OK, we'll have to look for a statement from IALPA on that question about the increased number of people ringing in sick. In terms of overtime, what reliance does Aer Lingus have on overtime from pilots in order to run its schedule?
Quite a bit, because the transatlantic operation, you don't have based aircraft in a lot of the cities that Aer Lingus flies to. So I do expect a disproportionate impact on the transatlantic operation if things start going wrong. How Aer Lingus anticipate this in advance and draw up plans to deal with it, that's everything to play for over the next 7 days.
So for customers, let's say, who are expect to be flying out with Aer Lingus next Wednesday week, Thursday, Friday, and we don't know how long this is going to go on for, can they expect their flight to be impacted? Will there be cancellations? And if so, what routes do you think would be targeted? Or can we tell at this point? We can't tell any of that, because what you have is, when the work to rule is everything tightened. Pilots are not going to be logging in to see what their hours of. If somebody goes sick, there's probably not the flexibility to call in pilots out of hours to substitute for that. So it's pretty clear that they're just going to tighten everything up and see if something breaks. We won't know till next week whether that has an impact on operations. But as I said, the most vulnerable are the transatlantic, and I would expect Aer Lingus to look after things like the Heathrow route, fairly central to Aer Lingus's operation, and other key routes like that they would be the ones that would be more closely defended. It's all a tactical battle, Ciara, because what IALPA are doing is exerting extra pressure, as I said last night, pushing Aer Lingus on all fronts that it can. This is the fourth front that they've opened up. All right, Eoghan Corry, thank you for bringing us that Always
update
a pleasure,
and
Ciara.
that insight. I'm sure we'll be speaking to you again over the next couple of days. We'll leave it there for now. Up next, Women's Aid see the highest number of domestic